An array of maps covers the walls, tables, and all surfaces of a research tent somewhere on a beach in the myriads in the heart of the Dominion. Books stacked on the ground are holding up other measuring instruments and tools, and we can see notes that are connecting these maps to one another. As two researchers point and discuss a small sheltered bay on one of these maps, the tent flap opens and the camera glides out to reveal a number of tents making up this research station on this island. The terrain is steep, and it appears that this research base has been built relatively high up topographically on the slope between the bay below and the mountain that looms above the researchers behind them. And we can actually see that in a strange meteorological event, that the waters in the bay are actually not just receding out with the tide, but seem to be draining into a central location that is then outletting into the ocean beyond. And all of these researchers are sprinting towards the beach to dash into and investigate what is slowly becoming revealed as the tide and these waters recede out into the ocean. Well below the surface of the waters, and apparently extending beneath the very ground that these researchers are standing on, are the remains and ruins of a once great city. The buildings themselves appear to be constructed out of strange, uncommon materials, and as researchers jump down and get in the mud and begin taking samples and making notes and doing what they do in the short period of time that they are going to be able to investigate this, we see a young man jump down with them. And he not only makes his way into the ruins of this city, but he finds an entrance that leads further in below the actual island, not further out into the ocean. And he rushes in, torch held high, hoping to discover something that will change the world. As he moves further in, a strange mist begins to come out as he continues to descend and begins to swirl all around him. Strange sounds like whispers and the dripping of water and wind between these cave walls disorient this young man, and we can hear the shouts from researchers, potentially others that he was with, coming down the tunnels and other caverns that he has made his way through to get here. And they're yelling, "McCabe! The tide is coming back! McCabe, you have to get out of here!" And as he turns, the mist fully envelops him in a phantom-haunted fog, as his torch does not illuminate anything else. And we hear voices say,
"McCabe, we know McCabe."
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ironsworn Sundered Isles here on the Rene Plays Games podcast. We're already almost done with February, which feels crazy to say when this is coming out, but let's talk a little bit about announcements. Next week and the final episode of February is a mining media on rom-coms and talking about romance and relationships at the table and how to approach those kinds of relationships, creating relationship maps and webs, and talking about the very, very many different layers and approaches and facets of burgeoning romantic type relationships that can be explored at a table, which is more rewarding and more comfortable and safe for all people present at the table than just your RPG horror story, roll charisma, fade to black shenanigans. We don't want that. And then next month for March, it's going to be a big month, guys. So I'm going to be on 2 different other podcasts that I am a massive fan of and can't believe I got to be on. Next month, I'm going to be on an episode of Characters Without Stories with Star. So definitely go subscribe and listen to Characters Without Stories. It is a podcast about the paths yet traveled, the characters made and not played yet. And I'm going to be on an episode of The Institution in indie RPG podcasting that is Party of One with Jeff Stormer. I was super fortunate to reach out and get a response and get to go on and play Magical Year of a Teenage Witch with Jeff, which definitely inspired my desire to play a game like that, which ended up being Koriko for this podcast. You can see some of the initial ideas for my Teenage Witch in that, which we recorded a while ago now, but is finally coming out in March. So keep an eye out for those 2 appearances that I'm going to be on other podcasts. And then other than that, in March, Ironsworn is going to march on, pun intended, and I'm going to finally have the final member of the DMs After Dark on for a perspective checks. Scratch that, actually. I may need to get Kent on for an episode, but Christian is coming on to talk about something next month for perspective checks, and we'll see what the 4th week ends up being. And announcements way in advance, but this way it is on recording. You can hold me to it. April is a 5 Tuesday month, and my goal is to put out another mech city. It would be free, but I just want to maintain working on this project and provide more cities for people who may want to experience and explore solo role-playing games with mech, which is my rune/reap hack from Spencer Campbell, aka Gilla RPGs. So I'm going to try and continue and make a few cities this year, and April should be the first one that I'm hopefully going to be releasing. All right, this intro's gone long. Let's play some Ironsworn. When last we left Cassidy McCabe, she had arrived on the Isle of Kairos, the largest island in the heart of the Dominion, the Coyote Dominion's myriads, most densely populated section of the seas, and had sailed into Lower Crania, the cavern-like lower portion of the city that houses many, many businesses and things like that, then took the elevator up to the city of Crania that is on top of the cliffs underneath a massive, massive coral dome with many holes, and makes light in this city very interesting. It is like the cultural and historical hub of the Coyote Dominion in these islands. And I want to real quick retcon one little thing, which is that Cassidy McCabe does not walk through Lower Crania, take the elevator, and walk through Upper Crania as herself. She does so in one of her other aliases because I just want to play these. So let's see, I'm going to roll a d6. If it's 1 or 2, we are once again in the guise of Esmeralda Grey, the fortune teller weaver. If it's 3 or 4, it is Blythe Bannister, our courtesan, our companion, as we're calling it. Or if it's a 5 or 6, it is Fitz Hadley, the male explorer. Here goes. It is a 5. Fitz Hadley, male explorer. So Cassidy disembarks the Revenant, aka the Red Diamond, and makes her way through the city of Lower Crania, up the elevator and through Upper Crania, dressed as this male explorer. Again, I think that Cassidy is able to pull off these false identities because she is kind of tall for a woman here in the Isles. She is roughly like 5'9", 5'10", and I think that her body type is very androgynous in that she's kind of just like a plank of wood. Like, she's kind of like flat all over. She's got wider shoulders. Everything she wears seems to kind of like drape off of her. Like, she's very slight, but she has some muscle from just having to row boats and work and be strong enough to scale buildings and do what she had to do as a spy. And specifically, I imagine her male false identity of Fitz Hadley as being this eccentric explorer, member of the Explorers Guild, which I think she probably has the benefit of having her brother Drake McCabe probably a member of the Explorers Guild, I think we decided, or at least Cynosha Society, but she has the ability to make all of the paperwork look legitimate, and when she assumes the role of Fitz Hadley, it is that of a strange, eccentric explorer, not the macho, machete down places and go in, ready to take what's theirs. More like the academic, looking for the strange stuff kind of explorer that gets hired for those jobs that there's not going to be a lot of competition for. And that's on purpose because she can use this identity to get into strange places. And that's probably what she's going to need to do with a lot of the work that she does with the Revenant, the Ebb, and the Tide Runners. Regardless, the last episode ended with Cassidy making her way to Quon's Restoration and Sunken Relics store in Upper Crania and approached the enormous clockwork person, and they just turned, looked at Cassidy in the form of Fitz Hadley, and asked if she'd ever staged a prison breakout. And Cassidy responds in her best Fitz Hadley, "Why yes, Quon, it is great to see you as well. I would love to go inside and have a drink and some food." And the clockwork person looks down at Cassidy in disguise and says, "Oh yes, of course. This way, male human customer." And Cassidy follows, shaking her head as Quon leads them into his home/shop. And inside, she looks at him and says, "For someone who won't tell me a whole lot about the organization you represent and sends me on these very questionable missions, you're not exactly cautious when you're outside working in your garden. And your paranoia continues to prove why you are perfect for the jobs you've been entrusted with. Please, refresh yourself before debrief." Boy, am I glad I'm committing to that voice for Quon for this whole series, but mechanically speaking, I'm going to use this opportunity to sojourn, which says when you spend time recovering within a community. We are not spending much time, but I figure this is enough to hopefully get some of our lost spirit and or supply back. So let's see what happens. When you spend time recovering within a community, roll plus heart. Of course, this is going to be when my good rolls come out. That is a 5 + 1 on heart against a 1 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. This is a safe refuge. You and your allies may choose 2 recover moves, and instead of rolling, assume automatic strong hits. So we are going to hearten and resupply, which, through the use of a strong hit on Sojourn, is actually going to bring us up to full on all of our meters again, which is great. I think we see a little bit of a conversation that we don't hear as the intro music and a small little montage plays, as that tense kind of jabbing back and forth between Cassidy and Quon turns into smiles, and the two of them actually having a rather enjoyable conversation, it looks like. And then we're going to get the kind of quick synopsis of why Quon asked that question last episode. And I've actually been making my way to noting every quest starter from all of the truths we choose in Season 2 and finding a way to include as many of them as basically like episode or even multi-episode prompts as possible. The very beginning of this episode was actually the quest starter for the Relics truth, which says an uninhabited island is marked by the ruins of a once great city. Someone important to you led an expedition to that island months ago but has not returned. What were they in search of? And that is why we shifted POVs for this intro to Drake McCabe. Maybe if I'm feeling particularly spicy, I may do a switch POV episode and play Drake, but I think it's going to be more interesting if Cassidy finds out and needs to investigate those ruins as well. And the other truth that I am pulling for this episode is from the Empire's truth, which says a valuable prisoner is held in an imperial fortress. Who is this person, and why are they the best hope for the rebellion? So let's find out who this person is. Let's roll up who is presumably going to be maybe a pretty important character. We're not going to roll for first looks or anything like that, because we don't know what they look like. And Quon just knows that somehow someone involved with the ebb is being tagged to do what they can to see this person freed. Presumably from Deepwater Harbor, which is the most fortified place in all of the Heart of the Dominion. It is where the harbor is that all kind of imports and exports go out of. It is where like a bank, vault, treasury, etc. is, and a lot of the money lenders and whatnot work out of there. There's a huge harbor chain. It is built in basically a like 80% enclosed circle of cliffs. It is absolutely the most impenetrable area in these isles. So that is where the prison is that we're going to have to rescue this person from. But let's find out who they are. Let's roll on the character roles table. That's just a 10, which says agent. Okay, sure. Let's roll again and see what kind of agent. A 67 says investigator. Okay, that tracks with the ebb, I think. We'll do a little rundown to remind people what the ebb are about as far as the little we know as Cassidy. So we have an investigator who has been arrested and detained in the most secure prison in the Heart of the Dominion. Let's see if we can get a feel for maybe what they were investigating that got them arrested, because obviously this would be something that the Coyote Dominion doesn't want them sticking their nose in. I'm going to roll on the character goals table, but if I don't like what's there from the number we got, maybe we'll switch it to action theme. So let's see. We did get a cursed result, which is always good. That is a 59, which would be protect a secret. Wait a second. The cursed version of that is inflict a curse or corruption upon others. What if we combine those and say that they were investigating rumors of a curse or corruption that has been inflicted upon others? Ooh. Yeah, we're going to flip the script. And instead of protecting that secret, they were investigating that secret. And maybe they got too close. And we need to find out what they've learned before the Dominion makes this person disappear forever. Oh, that's good. All right, last thing, let's just get a name for this person. Gonna roll on the names table. 45 is, we're gonna go with Damaris. Last name. 17, Iver. Damaris Iver. Okay, that is our investigator who got too close to some kind of corruption or curse that maybe the Dominion knows about. We definitely learned a little bit about stuff like that in Season 1 and have found out that the Church of the Enduring Servants is certainly doing some questionable things with resurrection. Oh boy. Okay. Unfortunately, this is not our first priority, and Cassidy eventually says this to Quon and says, Quon, how time sensitive is this? I may have made an iron vow with an Inquisitor of the Enduring Servants to protect one of the ships that found a Sky Island coming in, because there was a list of signatures and I still need to figure out who Will Solace is. That is unfortunate timing. Our network places Investigator Iver in the Deepwater dungeon sometime only 2 nights ago. I would not give him much past the week. How fast can you go to this island and return? And Cassidy looks at the clockwork person, throws her head back and sighs deeply and says, I guess we'll find out. Then you must be on your way. In the meantime, I will have my contacts attempt to make you some official-looking documents to get you into Deepwater Harbor itself. Oh, and take Feeney here. In case anything goes wrong, send a letter and tie it to her foot. She'll always make her way back to Periphas. And Quon, surprisingly gently, with their massive metal form and metal claw-like hands, scoops and grabs I'm imagining it like a tern, like a seabird, and they put it on Cassidy's forearm where it's just perched, and she just kind of smiles and shakes her head and says, "Of course you have birds. Of course.
What's wrong with birds?"
And we will now cut and go back to the Revenant docked in the cavern lower city of Crania, where the rest of the crew of the Revenant is returning from their trips and a little bit of time off of the boat, doing what they wanted, having a little bit of fun, as they prepare to set sail and rendezvous with the Enduring Blade to make a move on this sky island. And why don't we just get right to it? We are going to use our first set of exploration moves. This is going to start snowballing really fast, I think, from here on out. As far as this series goes, we're going to get a lot more into exploration, combat, regular Ironsworn play as opposed to setting the scene. I got a little ambitious with the setting part of this season, but now I think we're in dominoes start to fall, cascading problems, and getting to the resolution of hopefully finding out a few things, answering at least a few of these questions we've come up with. All right, so as opposed to undertaking an expedition, which says sailing an unfamiliar route through perilous seas, I think with the benefit of having the charts and maps of Captain Roland Burke and the Enduring Blade, that the Revenant can instead set a course. When you travel a known route through perilous seas, we know where we're supposed to be going. So we're going to set a course as opposed to undertake an expedition. Here goes. We roll plus supply. And that is actually, I think, maybe supposed to be hold, which is the ship's version of supply. But either way, both of those are at 5 on our meters. So we're rolling plus 5. Here goes. That is a 3 plus 5 against 2 6s on the challenge dice for a strong hit with a match. And there's no specific outcome for strong hit with a match on set a course, but I'm going to come up with an interesting bonus here as we reach our destination and the situation there favors us. It would grant us extra momentum, but we're still maxed out on momentum since last time. So let's figure out what this additional benefit is of us sailing to catch up with the Enduring Blade to be the first to arrive and do what we need to do here on this sky island. What if we just roll on the Make a Discovery table? It says when your exploration of a waypoint uncovers something wondrous. We're not quite at a waypoint yet, but I think that this could be an interesting way to frame this sky island that we have no details about. So I'm just going to roll a D100 and let's see what we get. 59 says prized natural resource, which I think is a little too on the nose. So let's roll one more time. 90. Wondrous visions or prophecies. Ooh, how could that manifest? Okay, I have an idea, but because I'm a glutton, I'm going to roll again on a few more oracles. First, weather. I always forget to roll weather conditions, and the potential for cursed weather makes this really interesting as we are coming across a sky island and seem to be the first to arrive. We don't see other ships closing in on it, even though we're expecting at least the Enduring Blade. So let's see what the weather says. Okay, well, it's not cursed weather. I tried, and it's fair weather, so we're approaching on a wonderful day. I think the only other thing I may roll on is story clue to see what this wondrous vision maybe has to do with. So let's see. 29 involves a hidden or mysterious faction. Yep. Well, I did have one of those from the beginning. Not only are the Ebb a secret faction organization that Cassidy is associated with, who are attempting to do certain things, we also have the Bloodsworn, who we've only seen so far meeting with that elder of the Church of the Enduring Servants, and they seemed pretty bad news. So this vision is going to somehow involve them. That's interesting. But regardless, we have bigger problems to deal with. I just realized we've arrived at a sky island. We're awaiting another ship that we're supposed to be basically escorting and protecting the entire way. And now we're going to be seeing these visions on this island, and there was a reason that Cassidy was coming here. I think it's to basically see who's coming for these resources, like basically who are the players that are coming for this resource that everyone in the smuggling kind of arena of the Heart of the Dominion here knows means not only big money, but also like dangerous cargo. So I didn't think about this. In Season 1 with Dine, we had a small little flying ship. Do we think the Revenant can fly? I'm not sure it's equipped with the appropriate stuff, but I'm going to say that it's probably somewhere between 50-50 and likely in this sort of location. We said that it's probably limited and very regulated by the Dominion in these very populated islands. So let's go ahead and roll. I'm going to make it between the 50 and 75. I'm going to say 66 or less. The Revenant does have the ability to fly. And I'm going to add the cursed die in here because if it is or isn't, but it is cursed, then obviously it's going to manifest in some cool way with the fact that this is a haunted living ghost ship. Not only is it not a cursed result, it's an 88, meaning it does not have the ability to fly. So how are we going to get up there? My first thought is if this island is low enough, we can maybe shoot a harpoon into the lower sections of this island, and then Cassidy can climb up while the rest of the crew waits for the Enduring Blade and provides backup as needed. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with that, and that's going to be the beginning of us undertaking an expedition. We are going to find our way across hazardous terrain and exploring a mysterious site. We're going to give the expedition a name and rank, and it's not going to be a crazy one. I think this is going to be... we're going to call it Get Dirt on the Sky Island, because Cassidy's less interested in the natural resources here, especially after swearing that iron vow to Azriel Stirling to protect the Enduring Blade who's coming here for that, and more about getting information that she can leverage against people or use to sell, etc. in the future. So we're going to put this at dangerous. We've yet to go above dangerous yet, but don't worry, it's coming. We're going to mark it the same as we marked the Aid the Enduring Blade in the Pursuit of the Sky Isle vow that we made. So I'm going to say we've made progress on that because we are already here, which allows us to mark some progress. And that's 2 boxes for dangerous vows. So we're going to put that on the Aid the Enduring Blade. And let's go ahead and jump up in this Sky Island. How are we beginning to undertake our expedition? Are we doing it with speed, keeping a low profile, or staying vigilant? I think the crew is staying vigilant. I think Cassidy knows she's not going to be able to be up here for very long, so it comes down to speed. We're going to be rolling plus edge as we approach beginning this Sky Isle exploration. Here goes. Let's go. That is a 3 plus 2 for a 5 versus a 3 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. On a strong hit, you reach a waypoint. Envision the location and mark progress per the rank of the expedition. So we mark 2 boxes of progress on getting dirt on this Sky Isle, and we reach a waypoint, which comes with its own move, Explore a Waypoint. So let's do this. When you divert from an expedition to examine a notable location, roll plus wits, which is one of our plus 2 stats. So here goes. Ooh, difficult decision time. That is a 1 plus 2 for a 3 versus 2 3s on the challenge dice, which would be a miss with a match, which would allow us to confront chaos. Whereas if I turn this into a strong hit with a match, I can make a discovery. And you guys know me, I love a good failure, but we do have 10 momentum. I'm not going to burn it right now. I'm going to confront chaos. We are going to roll it into the make a discovery that we rolled because of our set a course strong hit with a match, and this confront chaos is going to be that manifestation of those wondrous visions or prophecies. But as we got closer, because we saw something about this isle, this Sky Isle, was drawing us in, I want to say, ooh, we need to tie this back to the intro. It is a phantom choked mist. Cassidy was looking up at this sky island, confused. Why is nobody else here? It's a beautiful day. And then out of nowhere, there's just this strange, mist-choked sky isle waiting. And she's looking up at it, she's waiting, and she says, "You wait for the Enduring Blade, I'm going up there. Harpoon me." And she goes in. These visions and prophecies, this sound and these sights are beckoning to her as she climbs up this rope and eventually climbs up onto the island and finds herself at a waypoint. And she's approaching it. It's been luring her in what felt like a positive way. It felt wondrous. It felt important. And we know that it's going to have to do with a hidden or mysterious faction, but now we are confronting chaos. Let's roll a D100 and see what that is. An 89. We find a site of terrible carnage. Oh. In the Make a Discovery, the phrasing was wondrous visions or prophecies. And now, as we realize that this is actually chaos, maybe this sight of terrible carnage is actually a premonition that Cassidy is having right now. And Lee is fully there, walking what looks to be just a massacre of sailors and people who have come to this island hoping to get to the resources that are abundant. There are natural resources that we rolled and said that's a little too on the nose, but actually it's exactly the kind of thing they're looking for and exactly the kind of thing people are killing for all throughout these islands. It is what the Coyote Dominion has learned to exploit that has given them the upper hand in this centuries-long war. Oh boy, and now we are very much not in a good place. We've just confronted chaos. I think that Cassidy is very much seeing something that hasn't happened yet and is trying to put it together, and this is where we're going to get a hint about the Bloodsworn. The carnage that we see is not just bodies with terrible injuries, slashes of knives and swords and hatchets and puncture wounds from flintlock pistols and arquebus rifles and whatever they're using. It's more than that. There is some strange ritual to the whole thing. And I think that she turns to run to leave the island. And as she runs back towards where she thinks she's pretty good with her directions and knowing her exits and escape routes, she's heading back towards where the harpoon was shot so she could ascend and climb the sky island. And when she gets towards the edge of the sky island and clears the fog and mist that has been giving her these visions, she now sees the regatta in full effect. We rolled a strong hit with a match that allowed us to get here first, but what we were expecting was the race of many, many ships. And not only are they racing, some of them are coming up alongside others, and cannons are firing, and chaos is erupting down below. We are technically undertaking an expedition on this sky island, but she knows that she needs to go down and help her crew fight off people so the Enduring Blade can get up here. And that's exactly when she sees the Enduring Blade actually fly in a wide arc around the sky island and begin to drop ladders and deploy its sailors onto the island. I think Cassidy sees them and they're a little ways away, so we're going to stay on the island just for a little bit longer, and we are going to continue so we can hopefully complete this expedition. So in these exploration moves, every time you attempt to make more progress on it, you are rolling in this undertaken expedition move. So for each segment of the expedition, envision your approach. This time we are going to be staying vigilant, so we're going to roll plus wits. That is a 6 plus 2 for an 8 versus an 8 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. On a weak hit, we can mark progress, but we have to choose a cost. we can either make 1 -2 suffer move or 2 -1 suffer moves, or face a peril at the waypoint, envisioning what that may be. Now, I'm usually all for the more trouble in the narrative, but I think that it's actually very appropriate that Cassidy is not only stressed in this moment, but also probably taking some cuts and scrapes as she is frantically trying to get to the landing zone of the Enduring Blade people to let them know what's going on here and what she saw. So we're going to take -1 to our health track and -1 to our spirit meter. And I think as Cassidy approaches the Enduring Blade as it is making its landfall here on the Sky Island, Captain Roland Burke sees her run out of some brush or around some rocky scree or something like that, and yells down, "You're here for support. You're not here to explore the island, McCabe." And Cassidy looks up and says, "Well, I got here before you, and this place has some really weird stuff going on. I'm not sure what I saw earlier, but you need to be fast." And he looks back off of the deck of his ship towards the many other ships that are approaching, and he says, "Don't worry, we have speed in mind. Let's move fast. If you can help, let's go, and then you can get back to your ship and help us on the way out." And Cassidy agrees, and we're going to take the next segment of this, rolling plus edge, +2. We are going fast. Oh no. That is a 3 +2 for a 5 versus an 8 and a 10 on the challenge dice. That 10, of course, being Wraith. Something weird and magic and haunty is going to happen here. I'm going to burn momentum to at least make that another weak hit, so we get to mark progress, but we have to choose our cost, and this time, you know I'm going to be facing a peril. And I'm almost certain that peril is going to be Bloodsworn. So I think we put our expedition on pause, and we are going to enter the fray. We are going to do this not only as Cassidy, but we're going to have some red shirts, if you will, in the form of Enduring Blade sailors as we face off against, I'm going to say not many Bloodsworn. I think that there's probably maybe like 3 of them. And at first, much like in the tavern pub that Captain Roland Burke brought Cassidy to, the Enduring Blade feels very confident in their numbers advantage, but are most likely going to learn very quickly they just are straight up outmatched often. But here goes. We're going to enter the fray. When you initiate combat or are forced into a fight, envision your objective, give it a rank. You know what? These Bloodsworn feel pretty significant. Let's go ahead and make this our first formidable. And I'm doing this on purpose because you only mark 1 box of progress per successful roll when it's formidable, so that's going to be pretty tough. And I kind of want it to feel like Cassidy's going to barely scrape by here and get away. And I want these Bloodsworn to continue to feel like something we're not looking forward to brushing up against. So, giving it a name, it's going to be Repel the Bloodsworn until the Enduring Blade can get what they need, and it is formidable. So here goes. We're going to roll when we enter the fray, and I think that we are probably rolling plus edge because we were on the move when we found them here. It could also be caught in a trap or sizing up the situation. Again, these are our 2 +2 rolls, so we're rolling +2. Here goes. That is a 3 +2 for a 5 versus a 1 and a 9 on the challenge dice. 9, of course, being Cinder, because we are about to get into a fight, so that is a weak hit. On a weak hit, I can either be in control at the start or take +2 momentum. And nothing about this feels like Cassidy is in control, so we are going to take that +2 momentum, starting the fight at 6, not bad, and let's get into it. I think the first thing that happens is Cassidy skids to a stop, and the Enduring Blade men all pull their sabers and their guns, and they're standing across from these 3 Bloodsworn, and they cut an incredibly intimidating figure. They have, their eyes are kind of like bloodshot, and they look well dressed, but like they don't clean the blood off of their undershirts and things like that. And all of them have at least one of their forearms fully exposed, and they're looking down at something. And it's hard to see from this distance in this kind of quick chaos, but one of them speaks and says, "He's close. Find the one." And we are going to start by reacting under fire. When you are in a bad spot and take action in a fight to avoid danger or overcome an obstacle, we are going to do this by remaining stalwart against fear or temptation. I have a few ideas for maybe some of the abilities these Bloodsworn might have, but they are otherwise just humans. Maybe it's a curse, maybe it's something else, some kind of gift, who knows? But we're going to roll plus heart, which is one of our worst stats, so that is +1. Let's see if we can remain stalwart. That is a 3 + 1 for a 4 versus a 7 and a 1 on the challenge dice. The dice know it's a 7 on Wraith. So on a weak hit, we avoid the worst of the danger or overcome the obstacle, but not without cost. We make a suffer move and stay in a bad spot. So Cassidy is rooted to the ground. Her blood goes cold when she sees these three. Something about them she knows. It is bad news. But it's not the worst news. We're going to once again mark -1 on our spirit, because this is more about her resolve than it is her physical health. And when one of these Bloodsworn sees her kind of freezing up, they move on her, but she has survival instincts and does not let them come in for a free attack. So we are going to clash this time, and we are doing this in close quarters with iron, which again is our other bad stat. +1, here goes, here's to hoping. That is a 3, again, +1 for a 4, versus this time a 5 and a 7 on the challenge dice. I could burn my momentum to make that a weak hit, but I think this is just going to be a miss. Your foe dominates you in this exchange. You stay in a bad spot. Pay the price. Okay, let's see what that could be. 82 says, "You are stressed. Don't I know it?" But you know what? I'm going to resist that stress, and I'm going to roll. We still have +2 on our spirit track, so I'm going to roll to resist that. We roll plus spirit or heart, whatever is higher, which is +2. Here goes. That's more like it. A 6 + 2 for an 8 versus a 6 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. We can shake it off and take +1 spirit, or embrace the darkness and take +1 momentum. We're going to take that spirit right back, as Cassidy is finding her fighting spirit in this moment and realizing that 1, she has to get back to her ship for her people if there are others already up here. Who knows what down there looks like. And 2, they're after someone specific. So now she's focusing in on what does that mean. We are still in a bad spot. We are once again going to react under fire, except this time we're going to be changing the plan, finding a way out, or cleverly bypassing an obstacle. We are going to roll plus wits. Oh no, that is a 3 + 2 for a 5 versus a 6 and a 7 again on the challenge dice. There's nothing I can do here. I could burn momentum, but it would still be a miss. So on a miss, the situation worsens. You stay in a bad spot. Must pay the price. Oh boy, I said this was going to be hard, but I haven't marked progress once. A 79 says, "You are harmed." I don't think this is going to be too bad. We're going to make that down to 3 for our health meter, and that makes sense. I think that Cassidy tries to break free from this combat and run away, but I think when she turns away from one of these Bloodsworn, another is waiting right there, and it's a familiar face. It is a red-headed woman with piercing green eyes. She is staring at Cassidy when she turns to run, cuts her off, and charges in, pulling 2 hatchets. And as she pulls them up in a cross swing, Cassidy gets her 2 daggers up and blocks, but the woman's strength pushes further down, and eventually one of these hatchets just pushes against Cassidy's cheek right under her eyes, and we see a line just begin to seep blood as the woman is pushing, and Cassidy twists out of the way and wipes the blood from her face. The woman looks and smiles, staring at the blood, and she says, "You're not a member of the Enduring Blade. You have no idea how bad your luck is. But you will not be leaving here to tell anyone about it." And Cassidy just says, You'll have to catch me. And is going to run. I think that we are legitimately going to abandon an objective here. I think Cassidy is terrified that the vision she saw is about to come true, and she'd rather get back and warn people. And she begins sprinting. We are reacting under fire, and we are fleeing, so we're going to be rolling plus edge. We're not quite at facing defeat, but let's flee by reacting under fire and see if we can get anywhere. Okay, that is a 2 + 2 for a 4 versus a 9 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. Reacting under fire, a weak hit does not get us in control. We do not mark any progress. We are struggling. So I do think at this point, we do need to just face defeat and book it. It says, envision the consequence of this failure, clear the objective, and pay the price. I have an idea. Let's roll pay the price anyway. But I'm rolling the cursed die on here too, because if it comes up cursed, I know exactly what's going to happen. Let's see. Oh, it's cursed. Okay, and it's a 45, which says a new enemy is revealed. This works perfectly. I think that Cassidy is going to get away. I think that the vision, the prophecy she saw when she got on this island comes to pass, and a terrible, bloody massacre is left on this sky island. She runs back. She sees the enduring blade still docked in the sky next to this sky island, but she runs right for the harpoon, jumps down, hands over the top of this rope as she uses a belt or something like that to just fly zipline down towards the Revenant where naval battle is happening. We abandon this fight, but what I'm going to say is that some of Cassidy's blood is on that hatchet of Marama's. And we cut back to her before we cut to Cassidy on board the Revenant. And she touches the blood on the edge of the blade with her fingers and just rubs it between her finger and her thumb. And she closes her eyes. And then she rubs it on her forearm, where a new symbol appears. And she says, I don't have to catch you, little one. Now, I could never lose you. And I think I'm going to call it there early, and next time we are going to do a naval combat, ship combat to get out of here, away from this sky island. We did not get a lot of information, but I think the development of finding out if any of the Enduring Blades survived, who the mark was if they got caught by the Bloodsworn, and how this is going to shake out with Azriel Stirling. Now Cassidy knows that there are these strange blood-imbued powerful people. There's a lot of questions that are coming together. All of these disparate things. You kind of just think of it, to give it in Ironsworn Sundered Isles kind of parlance. Start with a bunch of things all over the place, but then it's a whirlpool, and eventually they are all going to circle one another, and they are all going to drain down very close to one another, probably collide, and we'll see what's left. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Ironsworn Sundered Isles. If you did, find me on the social medias. Say hi. You can always email me at rainyplaysgamespod@gmail.com. If you really like what I'm doing here, a rating and review goes a long way just towards helping more people find me randomly, being recommended to them and stuff like that. I don't know, algorithms. And if you felt insanely generous, I do have a coffee page, which I do not update and I'm very bad at, but so don't worry about it. You know, it's there if anybody's just feeling really, really generous. I'm working on making that more interesting. And I think that's it. So until next time, beware any mists maybe trying to tell you something.